Hello and welcome everyone to our fourth webinar for Rare Disease Day. We are very excited as we're in the last couple weeks ahead of Rare Disease Day. As we're raising awareness, we're feeling the boom, the engagement and the exchanges of our community around the world towards putting rare diseases and people living with a rare disease in the spotlight. I'm Laura Chappell. I'm Communications Director at GeRaD, Rare Diseases Europe. So GeRaD organizes the Global Rare Disease Day campaign together with 62 alliances. And today I'm here in the Paris offices of GeRaD, and we have speakers who are actually from 3 different continents to give you and share their experience with you about how they have prepared for the last 2 weeks ahead of Rare Disease Day. So preparing your social media communication 2 weeks ahead of Rare Disease Day. I'm going to hand it over to Eric, who's going to give you some tips.
So hello, my name is Eric. I'm social media manager at Rare Disease Day, and now I'm gonna help you to participate in this webinar. I'm gonna explain to you how you can use the different tools that we have to participate. So the first thing that you can do is to use the chat to introduce yourself, to interact with other participants. But if you want to get in touch with the people who are joining the webinar with our speakers, you can use the question and answer box. So you type there your question, and at the end of the webinar, we will be able to answer to your question. There is still another way to join this webinar and to comment, and it's on the next slide, and it's using our hashtag. So we are going to be reading all the posts that you do using this hashtag on social media. And I also would like to say hello to all the people who are following us on Facebook now. So please use this hashtag, especially on Twitter, and we will be reading it and reading your post and also sharing them.
Okay, thank you very much, Eric. And we're already seeing lots of people in the chat, and we have actually over 200 people registered to attend today. So we're looking forward to hearing from you. And as a reminder, all of the questions will be kept to the end of the webinar. As I mentioned in the introduction, so we wanted to be sure to thank our 62 National Alliance partners for all of their participation in Rare Disease Day and championing the campaign in their region or country. Here's a bit of the map, as you can see, from 57 different countries. So again, thank you to those National Alliance partners. You'll hear from 3 of them today with their tips. Rare Disease Day, the campaign for this year, as you've seen on rarediseaseday.org, the cause is equity, and the slogan is rare is many, rare is proud, and rare is strong. We have share your colors with all the vibrant colors that you'll see in the different materials as the call to action. Of course, Rare Disease Day is on the last day of February. This year it falls on a Sunday, the 28th of February, 2021. And again, about redefining rare, and as rare as many, we go back to the numbers of Rare Disease Day with over 300 million people living with a rare disease across the globe, over 6,000 rare diseases, and to date, almost no cure for the vast majority of those diseases, and very few treatments available. For Rare Disease Day and in raising awareness, patients around the world and across the globe, there are events in over 100 countries, and thousands of those events we posted also on rarediseaseday.org. So hopefully this year with the global pandemic, there will be many of those events that will be held online. So don't hesitate to find an event and hook up and watch maybe in a different country than usual. This global campaign is, of course, has the purpose to raise awareness for people living with the rare disease and their families. I'm going to pass to Eric.
Yes, so there are two things that we would like to highlight also for this campaign. And the first one is the global chain of lights that we are planning to create this year. So we are talking to our different national alliances, and they have been organizing the illumination of different buildings across the globe. So we already have buildings in France, in the USA, in Argentina, in Spain, in Australia, in the US. So we have really like a lot of buildings around the globe. So our intention is to create this global chain of lights that can link all the continents and can link all the people living with a rare disease. And the second thing that I would like to highlight is the Equity Toolkit that we are launching next week. In this toolkit, we are giving you instructions and useful information on how you can advocate for equity, because this is one of the most important things of this campaign, that we are advocating for equity for all the people living with a rare disease. So we will publish this on our social media channel. So please keep an eye on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and feel free to download this toolkit that will help you on your advocacy activities. And of course, we have also the campaign materials that we have prepared for the Rare Disease Day campaign. So if you go to the Rare Disease Day website that I will post here in the comment section, you will see that we have a high number of materials that you can download and that you can edit to add them on your social media post, on your website, to create posters, to create also pledge cards. So please feel free to use them, and feel free to let us know also. Tag us on your post on social media. And going back to today's agenda, so we have already the introduction, and I would like to introduce you the rest of the participants of this webinar. So first thing, I would like to introduce you to Matt. Matt, can you please say hello to the audience?
Yeah, I can. I was just trying to find the mute button on my screen. Hello, everyone. I'm Matt. I'll introduce myself more in a few moments.
Okay, and we also have, thank you, Matt. We also have 3 case studies this time. So we have Lesli Nordstrom from the National Organization for Rare Disorders in the United States. Can you say hello, Lesli, please?
Hello, thank you guys for joining us today. And I'm so excited to get ready for Rare Disease Day. It's here.
Thank you, Lesli. We also have Oleg Kvlividze. I don't know if I pronounce it well, Oleg. And he's from the National Alliance in Georgia. Can you say hello, Oleg?
Oh, hello, everyone. Hope you are well.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Kelly du Plessis from Rare Disease South Africa. Can you say hello to Kelly?
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me today.
Thank you, Kelly. So we will now, because you know already all our participants, and we want to know a bit more about you. So we are gonna launch a survey now, a poll, where we want you to let us know who you are. So first of all, tell us if you are a person living with a rare disease, a member or a patient representative, if you are a healthcare professional, a researcher, if you are not part of any of these groups. Then we would also like to know is if this is your first Rare Disease Day, because we know that we have some people that are organizing events for the first time this year. And also we would like to know if you have organized a Rare Disease Day event for 2021. So not just if you are planning to do that. So if you are already like if you have already organized something. So the voting is now on your screen. You can see the poll. I can see that some people are already voting. Yeah. So have more than the 30% of the people who have already voted. That's good news. I'm already seeing some interesting results that I will share with you in a few seconds. Okay, so here you can find the results. So most of the people who are taking part in this webinar, the 35%, are members of a patient representative or patient organization. And 24%, around 24% are people living with a rare disease or a family member. So welcome to all of you. For most of you, almost a 50% is your first rare disease day. So welcome, and I hope you are not dealing with too much stress in these last weeks. And also most of you, the 61%, have never organized a rare disease day event, but would like to do so. So thank you very much for this. And now I will hand over again to Lara.
So yes, thanks, Eric. It's great to hear and to see who makes up the audience. So we're sure to give you those tips today from our speakers. So as I mentioned earlier, this is the fourth of our series of webinars. All the webinars are recorded and are made available on the rarediseaseday.org website. So you can go in the news and find that news article announcing the webinars, and you'll see all three of the previous recordings, and we'll be putting up this one within the next couple of days. So as we said, in 2 weeks, a little bit more than 2 weeks, on Sunday will be Rare Disease Day. We have been already so excited watching everyone's participation and what is happening and being shared around the world. So thank you very much, and keep up the great work. And we look forward to seeing more. Please share with us what you are posting and what you are sharing, so that we can see it on the global website. And don't forget to put up your events. So now we're ready to get into the real core subject of our webinar. And I'd like to first introduce our guest external speaker, Matt Grek. I say he's external, but in fact, he has been working with the team this year since July on the global campaign. I'd like to thank him for all of his work and participation, especially with the marketing agency and our great marketing digital elements that we have on the downloads page. He's a specialist in digital marketing. I'm going to leave it now up to you, Matt. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Laura. I'm just going to share my screen, so I'll just pull up my slides. Okay, they should be up there. Are they there? Eric, can you nod if you can see them? Yes, okay, great. Thanks for the brilliant introduction, Laura. It really takes out a couple of my slides from the start of this, where I just explain who I am and where I'm based. But great to see you all. And it is, fantastic that I think that the campaign, the global campaign, has moved a huge amount in the last few months. And as we come up to the last few weeks, it's super exciting for me to see how all of the materials are being developed and how they're being used. Just a bit of background about me. As Laura said, I'm a communications consultant, and I've been working on the campaign this year from the start. So I was involved with the selection of the agency that's been supporting us and helping us develop all of the fantastic materials and the story. And one of the things I want to talk about is how we use stories today. I'm based, as you can probably tell, I'm from the United Kingdom. I'm from a city called Liverpool, but I'm actually based in France. And what I'm going to talk about today is just what we need to do over the next 2 weeks. I'll talk about, I'll just skip through the slides, just give me a second. talk about how we can use stories to get the message across. I'll talk about how we need to work together as a community to support ourselves on social media. And then I'll talk about some of the next steps that the campaign is taking over the next few months. Now, we are working in a challenging environment, and we're trying to make a difference. And I've brought this quote up because I think it talks about some of the challenges that we're facing. Once we decide to make a difference, it's easy for doubt to set in because making a difference causes change. And we're here to cause change for the rare disease community. Change is scary. And I think, you know, just anyone, even preparing for these slides, you suddenly think, for the slides in this session, you suddenly think, are we doing the right thing? Is this the right way of doing it? Could I approach it differently? But actually, when we talk to one another, get through our fears, we talk to our community. And the community is the rare disease community, groups of people who not only have our back, but are on a similar journey. And a lot of the materials that we've developed for the campaign are very much about bringing this community together. And you will have seen in the film, the video that's available online, if you haven't seen it, that it's all about sharing your story and bringing the community together, enabling and empowering the community. So the global campaign is very much about promoting the rare disease community. Now, obviously, the global campaign has a bit of money behind it. There is some investment and there's a large team. But we know that not everyone has a huge amount of money to invest or time. And you don't have, a lot of the time, don't have the technical skills to develop beautiful artwork. And actually, what we want to do during this webinar and through the case studies that we have is talk about Lesli will talk very much about how you can run a national campaign and the kind of tools that she's been doing on a much larger scale. Kelly's going to talk to us about telling stories and how that can support you. And then he'll hear from Oleg about his experiences in Georgia, in Eastern Europe, and around how with a relatively smaller population and a much, much smaller team, Oleg's been able to create some impact with his activities as well. And that will be around about using passion and talking about these great ideas that we all have and actually how we can share them and how we can work together. Okay, so just going through into telling stories. One of the key things that the campaign does is tell stories, okay? And I haven't told this story at all, and this is my story, and this is why I'm involved. This is my mum, who was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, which is a rare disease. She was diagnosed and given 6 months to live. She survived for 7 years. So, you know, it's talking about these stories creates connection, creates community. And my mum very rapidly became part of a multiple myeloma community. Multiple myeloma, when she was told she had 6 months to live, she knew nothing about it. And it was a very rapid learning curve for her and the family and the community that she was part of. So it's important that we share these stories and share our experiences. As we go through, so one of the things that we want to talk about is the different social tools. There's loads and loads of information on the internet about this, okay? And you'll see, we'll come on to all of these in a moment. What I want to do is just give you some background as to how things are working at the moment and actually implore you and encourage you to get involved and use the tools and share other people's information online. We want to mobilize the community to tell stories, and we see people telling stories already, and you'll see in a moment how people are sharing their stories on Facebook. We also have a fantastic resource on the website that allows you to tell your story in a lot more detail. But I think the way things are being shared on Facebook and on Twitter are slightly different than I expected them to be, but it's really powerful. So we'll come on to that in a moment. Okay, so Google, about an hour or so ago, when you search for Rare Disease Day 2021, has 320 million results showing it's quite a few, but actually we want more than that. And we know that in the last 7 days, there's been about 600,000 mentions of Rare Disease Day, the hashtag, on social media, across social media. And we want to build on that. So just moving through into Facebook, I mentioned, so this might be a bit fuzzy, but these are all comments that we've received from people telling their own stories. So we've got down here in the bottom left, Dwayne talking about being in the States and his experience with rare disease. We have people in North America, people from Luxembourg, somebody from the Netherlands, people from Japan, and people from Poland and Belgium. So it's spreading thousands and thousands of these patient stories around the world and creating connections. There's over 100,000 followers on the Global Campaign Facebook account. We are sharing information from that page, and the reach of that is huge. So if you have information, make sure that you're tagging Rare Disease Day. Okay, the next thing that's happened is that people have started to use the materials that we've developed in different ways. So here, Germany, have started to use Instagram, and I always forget about Instagram, and it's a fault of mine, and Eric happily points out Instagram to me regularly. The Global Campaign has, I think, 10,000-ish followers on Instagram around about now. One of the things that we've designed with the materials is we want you to start using them and design them for your own use as well. So this is an example from Germany. I won't try to pronounce it in German, but the translation is that courage is at the beginning of all action and happiness is at the end. So this again is about raising the profile, creating connections around the world and using the visuals in a slightly different way. So use your creativity. We have the materials. So if you don't have design tools, the materials allow you to do a lot of the work yourself. Okay. The campaign has even moved into the fourth dimension, actually. So there's a tool called Second Life, which is an online gaming tool, and well, an online world, actually. It's not a gaming tool, so people are using this in virtual reality. And there's a Rare Disease Day presentation running there. There's also a Rare Disease Day library as well. And all of the links to that are on the web, on the Rare Disease Day website. And we've also taken through, there's interviews now taking place. So, you know, we have 6 heroes from around the world, from 6 heroes from 6 continents, and we have 4 more heroes being added over the next few days that will go live. But JK, John Christian, has almost become a minor celebrity in his own right. So we can't see it here because the video won't come through. But we can share the links with you. And actually, JK has been interviewed to talk about his experience with rare disease. So there's footage of the real JK rather than the animated JK explaining about his experiences. And these are the kind of things that you can all do. So talk to rare disease patients, people living with rare disease, or film yourself and talk about your own experiences with rare disease and post that on social media. It's all about telling this story, talking about your experience. Okay. And then the global campaign has had an impact. So all of the activity that you're all involved in and all tagging, so all the way through to Tehran in Iran, they're now proposing that a national day for rare disease is adopted in Iran, which is great news, you know, and they don't necessarily use our branding. However, it's all building the community and the profile of rare disease. And that's what it's all about. Okay, so just in summary, what we've spoken about there is promoting the community. So one of the things that we've been urging you all to do throughout is not just talk about the day, Rare Disease Day, that actually it's about the whole rare disease community, not just talking about one day. Come the 1st of March, people living with rare disease, it doesn't stop for them, it carries on. So we need to maintain the momentum. We keep this focus going on the community, and we use targeted, passionate and creative communication. So you've seen in the visuals that we have these very bright and bold colors that we're using, bringing everyone together as one and connecting. So using those stories to connect with one another. And then the last point on there is around mixed media. So it doesn't always have to be social. And when I talk about mixed media, we're using the film with JK as an example. We're using the media releases as well. So it's multiple ways to get those messages out. Okay. Together we are stronger. So again, what we want to do is enable and empower the community. And I know Leslie will talk about this in a moment, but I just wanted to touch on some of the tools that are available to you via the campaign. Eric's already mentioned, so we've got a ready-made set of materials that you can use. They're beautifully designed and they're all available to download. So they reflect these real stories. So the 6 heroes are real people. And the film talks about the ups and the downs, the challenges that they face, and also how they overcome those challenges on a day-to-day basis. We have 6 portraits available, and 4 more will arrive next week. I've seen the draft of 2 of those today, and they look fantastic. So it's really exciting that we will be able to publish those next week. And there's over 50 different assets, 50 different graphics and materials available for you to use, all in a consistent style and format. And please do use them and push them as much as you can. And they're made to be as easy as possible for you to use on social media. Okay, so we've already spoken about this. Okay, so I won't go through this detail in detail. And here we are. These are just the examples zoomed in, so the different kinds of tools that you can access from the website. Have you downloaded them, and when are you planning to use them? Let us know. Keep the campaign informed. Back to another quote. So, not forgetting, we're talking about these connections and the community. So this is one of the stories that we've received. So, and I've spoken about this example before for those of you that were on a previous webinar. We'd like to get in touch with the other 3 families that are dealing with Barr's syndrome, so we can learn together more about the disease, to share our experience, and eventually to find a cure for this disease with the help of scientists. We don't know what the future looks like living with a rare disease, and this is so scary. Okay, so that's from Nicoletta, talking about Christoph, her son, in the US. And we're talking about real lives, okay, and we're talking about connections, and it's emotional and it's difficult and it's challenging, but let's bring those connections together and support the campaign, support people living with rare disease. So next steps, and I'm just conscious of time. How much time have I got, Eric? Am I okay?
You're okay. You've taken 10 minutes. You're good.
10 minutes. Okay. Okay. Good. Good. So we have a plan. So for the next 2 weeks, we have a plan. We've spoken about the different tools that are available to you. I'm just going to mention what the campaign is going to do. There's been a plan running over the last few months, and we will really ramp up the social media activity. I'm not going to talk about being targeted and specific. I think Leslie will mention some of that, and definitely Kelly's going to talk about that as well in her stories. But over the next few weeks, the campaign will be publishing more portraits we've spoken about. We're having a webinar now. We are launching, a social media paid campaign. So there will be adverts appearing on Facebook and YouTube, and I think maybe Instagram. And we're asking you to get behind those. So I'll mention more of that in a moment. We'll publish more portraits. We have the Equity Toolkit, which Eric's already mentioned. We have the buildings being lit up, which is super exciting. And some of the buildings that we have lined up are really, fantastic places. So keep an eye out for that. And then we have a countdown being launched. So we have 10 days to go next week. And then we talk about there's a number of events, hundreds, maybe thousands of events, and they're all listed or being listed on the website. We have podcasts being launched. Jan and Simona, if you don't know, are part of the executive team at GeRaD. But I'm sure other parts and the national alliances from around the world will be launching different podcasts. And then eventually we get to Rare Disease Day itself, which is on a Sunday this year. I don't need to remind you of the date. So online advertising, and apologies for the formatting on these slides. We have some gaps in the countries that the campaign can reach. So we've done a lot of analysis previously to identify where we have the most impact. And we know that in the Middle East and parts of Africa and parts of South Central America, we have a big gap. So we'll be doing some advertising and some focused work on raising the profile of rare disease in different countries. In Africa, it includes places like Kenya and Nigeria. In the Americas, it includes Mexico and Brazil, I think. But we will dig that information out and share that with you. So that's exciting. It's another new thing for the campaign, and that will be boosting different posts that we have on there. So please get behind that as well and share it. Yeah, so there you go. Like, follow, share, Rare Disease Day. Keep using the hashtag. And I'm just coming up to the end of what I've covered, or what I wanted to cover, which is actually, we are making a difference. And working together with the community does have a huge impact. We've seen in the last 7 days that we have 600,000 impressions on social media. Let's get that to several million, because we should be retweeting and sharing each other's information. It makes it a lot more powerful. Keep following, keep sharing from the key accounts. Make sure that your partners, the people you work with, are involved to help you promote. And we'll talk about that more in a moment. And then if you can only do one thing, if you don't have time to do anything else, just do it. Just get on with it. Make it happen. Okay, that I think covers me. I'm going to pass over to Lesli now from the US, from Nord, who's going to talk us through their approach to their campaign on a much larger scale. So over to you, Lesli.
Thank you so much, Matt, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Some of us have shared our stories many times. We forget the bravery that it requires to tell something that is very near and dear to our hearts. And so I also just want to take a moment and thank all of the Rare Disease Day supporters out there who are sharing their stories or simply showing their support of a loved one or someone in their community that they care about that has a rare disease. So hopefully you all can see my slides. I just want to tell you a little bit about the campaign in the United States, how it supports the international campaign, how it's different, some of the things that we've seen in the last few years, and how that ladders up to how we're planning for 2021, the year where we're all virtual. Well, as you can see from my slides, the campaign, as we call it in the United States, that supports the International Rare Disease Day campaign is Show Your Stripes. So why stripes? Because this is not an international symbol for rare disease, though many of you may be familiar with it. But in the United States, when you're in medical school, the common phrase that doctors hear is, if you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras. Meaning look for a common diagnosis, a common disease first. But we're here to say some of us are zebras, and we want to make sure that the medical community recognizes that. And so that's why in the United States, we have embraced the zebra, and that's really part of where Show Your Stripes came from. We also were looking with the creation of the campaign, what can we do that doesn't just make the rare community have to stand up and be counted, but all of the supporters, the larger community, clinicians, researchers, people who love someone with a rare disease can also see themselves included in this campaign, because I think I can speak for everyone when what we really want is the most inclusive, broad, loud campaign that we can have so that rare disease patients can finally get what they need to truly experience equity. Equity. Got all choked up there. What I really appreciate about the way the National Alliances approaches Rare Disease Day is that by creating the broader international campaign and allowing countries to tailor make the campaigns that will fit their country's likes, dislikes, needs, where they're at in terms of social media, this really allows us to make the most effective, strongest impact for the day. So I just want to applaud the foresight to have that flexibility. And you'll see on the slide a few pictures from past Rare Disease Day events and activities. And of course, there's the Empire State Building lit up for rare, and we're hoping for that again in 2021. Again, back to kind of why Show Your Stripes. It's inclusive. It allows anyone to do something as simple as, like me. Today I'm wearing zebra stripes. It could be just stripes. I can do a lot of simple activities to participate. I can share something on social media with the hashtag Show Your Stripes and hashtag Rare Disease Day. It doesn't require a lot of our community, but yet it's very impactful. And of course, as Matt said, together we are stronger. At Nord, we have our tagline, alone we are rare, together we are strong. And it's true. Using these hashtags, making the campaign louder is a way to get attention on a much bigger scale. And we're hopeful that you're going to be part of making it louder for us this year. So looking at 2020, this campaign has been going on since 2019, and that's kind of a side note that I do want to give you. If you're choosing to pursue more of a tailor-made hashtag or campaign in your country, make sure you give it a few years so that you can look at the differences from one year to the next to see if there's growth in the campaign. Are people latching on to it? The first year of Show Your Stripes, while successful, it wasn't as broad as it is today. Now people are really excited about it. They look forward to it. They plan their whole outfit around it. And it's really something wonderful to see how people find it to be empowering and something that brings us together. So in 2020, we saw over 7 million people engaged in hashtag Show Your Stripes and hashtag Rare Disease Day in the United States. And that was really exciting to see. One thing that we did do is, thinking of Matt and always forgetting about Instagram, we actually stepped outside our own comfort zone and engaged in TikTok for the first time through a TikTok influencer that you see here, Mark Anastasio. He was really impressed by the Show Your Stripes community or Show Your Stripes campaign and wanted to be part of it, but he wanted to take it down to the level that his classmates could understand. They had a classmate that had passed from a rare disease and he wanted to honor them. And so he created the Show Your Stripes initiative. And that's what we're all about. It's not about just taking what Nord has or what the international campaign has. It's about seeing it and being inspired to create something of your own that speaks to the global effort that we're all making on Rare Disease Day. So we were so glad to have Mark on board and to see that growth and that growth and awareness among young people. I think that's another thing that we were really excited to see. And speaking of young people, we're seeing Show Your Stripes resonate the strongest in those 34 years old and younger, which is a great demographic to be targeting since that's the generation that is up and coming. It's an easy, inexpensive campaign to engage with, as I've said, and we're really seeing tremendous growth this year. Maybe it's because we're all home virtually and we want to be connected, and this is a way to be connected even if we can't physically come together. But we've already surpassed this year the total number of unique posts from last year. So that is really amazing. So keep those posts coming for Rare Disease Day. And as I've said it again and again, we can't do it on our own. We need the community. We need everyone's support from groups all the way down to the individual level. So this year, one of the things that we did that was brand new was we created a contest for our member organizations to create art that speaks to them about what it means to Show Your Stripes, what Rare Disease Day means to them. We had 27 submissions, and that's already reached 40,000 people. Sharing your story, sharing your experience, it doesn't always have to be as direct as telling your story or going through how you got your diagnosis. It can be art that inspires you, something that captures, what your day-to-day is, or what the day-to-day is of someone that you love. And Matt has told you about the toolkits that GeRaD provides through the international campaign that are fabulous and gorgeous, and we love them so much. We use them ourselves, but in addition to that, we create our own US-focused toolkits for social. We include our own country-specific fact sheets, as well as we have a little fun with it. It's not all seriousness. We have coloring sheets, stickers that you can print from at home, and lots of wonderful materials, because in the end of the day, we're here to empower you, the individual, the community, the organization, researchers, healthcare providers, again, the whole aspect of the community to be engaged. And we want to make that as easy for you as possible. So even if you're just logging on today going, oh, it's 2 weeks to go and I haven't done anything, there's plenty for you to take from all of the toolkits that the National Alliance partners put out, what the international partners put out, and just using your own creativity. I think the key point I want to kind of highlight as a national organization, what's really important for us is that we need to make it easy for people to participate and accessible. That's so important for our community. And if we're really going to have the impact and be able to make changes on the advocacy front, which I think Kelly's going to speak to next, we need to have engagement. We need to have people standing up and shouting out about Rare Disease Day. So there's tons of content that you can take from, feel free to take things from the United States page, take things, which is rarediseases.us, rarediseaseday.us. Sorry, my webmaster is going to kill me for getting that wrong. But, get involved. Make sure you use the hashtag Rare Disease Day, because we want to make sure that we're tracking all of that. So we can then take it to legislators and regulators and say, see how many people are saying that we need changes in order to have health equity, not just in our countries, but around the world for rare disease patients. So with that, I am going to wrap up, but I'll be here for questions later. And I'm going to turn it over to Kelly, I believe. Yeah, or Matt, and then Kelly.
Just before we move over to Kelly, Leslie, just one question for you. And thanks for that. It's really brilliant presentation. Just if one of our attendees was coming here fresh and they were thinking, oh, I need to do something now. There's all of these different materials available to me. What would you recommend they did?
If you're feeling overwhelmed, I would say the most simplest thing you can do is make a single post on, it could be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and just say, I support Rare Disease Day. You don't have to say that you're a rare disease patient or that someone you love has a rare disease. What really matters is that you support the community, you support the movement. And that can take 30 seconds. You can do that, in between Zoom calls, and you can do it right now while you're on the webinar. We won't be mad. But just take the time to put it out there, and make sure you use hashtag Rare Disease Day. That's the international tag, and I think out of all the tags, it's the most critical one to use.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank you, Leslie. Thanks for the presentation. So we're going to move over to Kelly now, who is in South Africa. Afternoon, Kelly. Kelly's going to talk to us about, well, there's the title, Patient Storytelling, the South African Experience. So over to you, Kelly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. And thanks, Leslie. It was a great presentation. So today I'm really going to be speaking about the power of storytelling and really how that fits into the larger picture of advocacy. So in our experience as a patient organization, given that I think many of us start this work out of passion, it's not as though we woke up, we went to school and decided that one day we wanted to be rare disease advocates. We have landed in this role specifically because of personal circumstance. So I think very often we have jumped out the plane and are essentially building the parachute on the way down. And one of the key insights that I think we missed as an organization for many years was how patient awareness and rare disease awareness really fits into the global theme of advocacy. And it's only really been now 8 years later that I'm starting to see how that intertwines with one another. So if you're thinking of advocacy and you're thinking of awareness, very often we think awareness speaks to the public at large and advocacy speaks to government and legislation. But essentially, for any government and legislation to be held accountable, you need to have a fair amount of public will and public awareness. And that's where the awareness factor kicks in so important. And really it actually merges and it dovetails together. So we have spent a lot of time over the last 2 years really focusing on our storytelling, and today I'm just going to give you a few tips that we have found work for us. It's not a one size fits all approach, absolutely, but also to just highlight that we have the opportunity to really cement what rare diseases mean to people as a first off. Many people who we come into contact with haven't heard or haven't had any experience with rare diseases, and they might see a news article or they see a Facebook post or a blog, and really we have we're in a powerful position where we can frame exactly how they perceive rare diseases in their everyday experience. So I first off would like to start by saying, with a quote, that storytelling is the most powerful way to put ideas into the world today. And I think that was stated by Robert McKee, but I think it is really so critically important now, especially after we have gone through this whole COVID experience where information is out there and we almost feel overwhelmed to some extent. So always to bear in mind that it is really a powerful tool. So what are the benefits of storytelling? So firstly, stories are really an entry point into understanding a different experience, as I explained a few minutes ago. And really they highlight it can be a starting point. So how you frame something is really how people will perceive it going forward. The second, as Matt was saying, it helps connect with one another and it really creates a community. It provides an opportunity to learn. Even as someone who works with patients every single day, I am always learning new things from hearing the patient experience. It shapes, strengthens, and challenges our opinions and views, and obviously it strengthens advocacy. So what are some of the things that you can do to make your story great? And, in the beginning, when we started this, we always wanted to give so much of the story because our stories are really personal to us. And we almost feel that, every section of it is equally as important as the next. And I've learned that when sharing your story, less is often more. So you want to be punchy and to the point. You want to make sure that you have highlighted the 5 most important things that you want to get across in that particular story, and then make sure that your story is structured around those 5 important points. So what we always advise when we do our media workshops with our patients ahead of doing any sort of media messaging is to take a piece of paper and ask yourself, what points am I trying to get across to the audience? And then when asking that question, to write down the 5 most important things that you feel are a testament to that. So very often you have to split your story up and you don't get all the aspects that you want to across in one day. So if you're discussing, if the theme around the particular campaign at the moment is around access, or for example, now we're obviously going to be talking quite a bit about equity. So you want to then ask yourself, what specifically about patient equity are we trying to get across? And then to structure the 5 most important relevant points that you can share within your story that highlights that. The second thing is to get to the heart of the story quickly, particularly in a world where information is so overwhelming and there's just so much of it. If you don't, whatever you start off with has to be so punchy that it actually stops people in their tracks and gets them to carry on reading. Often on social media, there's that read more button. And if you haven't hooked them already within that first 2 sentences, it's unlikely that they will go ahead. So no pressure, but it is really important to get to the heart of the story quickly, and then you can go on to elaborate. The third thing is to connect with people, to make it relatable. rare diseases are often perceived in a negative light, and unfortunately it's our responsibility to change that. So you need to make sure that it's relatable to the everyday person, and that they take something out of that story that makes them want to get involved and want to know more and want to remain engaged. And then lastly, it's to grab attention. And that's probably the most difficult thing in this environment where we are so overwhelmed with information. Then you've got to put your story into context. So the bigger picture makes your story relatable to the audience. Use facts. Numbers make your story credible, and context makes your story impactful. So I still very often use the fact sheets that are created by RareDiseaseDay.org. They always have their fact sheets on there. We have done things like Twitter cheat sheets, which we have sent through to our patient community and asked them to share one fact a day. Whenever we reference a story and ask a patient to tell their story in a public platform, we always make sure that we back it and underpin it with relative facts, because that gives the story credibility. If you think of someone sharing their story and you go on and underpin it with saying, do you know that 1 in 15 people are going through the same thing? Or do you realize that only 5% are lucky enough to have a treatment like I am? 95% of the patient population simply doesn't have access to a FDA-approved treatment. Those sorts of things make it very real to everybody, because as a parent, as a friend, as someone who cares for someone, as an employer, you automatically, on hearing something that is so hard-hitting and factful, you automatically stop in your tracks and go, gee whiskers, like, how would I feel if that had happened to me? Or like, what happens if that was my child? So it's really, really important to make sure that your story remains credible. And the best way to do that is with facts. And then lastly, it's to pitch it. So remember to make it a great and positive story in a world where there's so much negative and there's so many dreadful things happening. To come up with something positive is really like a refreshing experience. So make it as positive as you possibly can, even though very often these stories are sad. Frame yourself as a local expert, because reality tells us that we are. Nobody knows what it's like to live with these conditions more than the patient. And I think often we forget that we actually are lay experts in our various conditions. So let's own it. We've walked a really difficult road to get that title. So, own it and use it as much as possible. Share statistics that resonate with the general public. Like I explained earlier, it really gives you that absolute punch when you resonate with the people at large and you use facts and figures that are relatable to everybody around you. Make use of the resources that are made available via the various websites. And then lastly, use multimedia. One size does not fit all. Sometimes text is better, sometimes imagery is more powerful. Videos, various social media platforms, whether your style of writing, how you're blogging, whether you're using illustrated images like this Rare Disease Day campaign this year is very, very illustrative, or whether you're using raw imagery, mix it up. It doesn't always have to be the same. It is absolutely okay. This is a very artistic expression, and it's great to mix things up. So use as much media as you can and incorporate it in as many different things as possible, and never give up the opportunity to put a message out there. So be it on a corporate gifting that you're sending out, be it on your email signatures, be it on your websites or on your social media pages or as your cover page, your WhatsApp profiles. It's always an opportunity to tell a story. And so use those, because that is essentially, if you've told a story and then you go on to continuously remind people with subtle imagery or subtle multimedia, it really goes on to make a huge impact. I'm going to, and I hope it works. We've debated that we're hoping that it would work, so I thought I'd give it a try. I'm going to show you a very short video. It's only 30 odd seconds, but this was our campaign last year in South Africa, where we were really trying to reframe rare. And the idea behind that was taking it from this negative experience that patients felt or that the public perceived, and really making it something positive. And we used all the facts that had been put out by RareDiseaseDay.org, and we used those facts that were put on their fact sheets, and we actually asked one patient a day to share a video that highlighted that. So they all submitted through their videos. We then did some minor edits on them and put on a holding slide at the beginning, and one fact a day was shared. And I can tell you that we achieved such great feedback from that campaign. The last time I checked, we obviously haven't checked on it in a while because the campaign ran last year through February, but in February last year, we had reached about 25 million South Africans. So it really, really was a great way to do it. So here's to hoping that this video works.
Hi, my name is Dalma Bradell, and I am a cystic fibrosis warrior. Did you know that 80% of rare diseases are genetic in origin and thus are present throughout a person's life, even if symptoms do not immediately appear? Help us reframe rare.
So that's it all. That's all from me. Just to encourage you all to share it. Social media is great for awareness, so use it. Use hashtags, and again, never give up the opportunity to use subtle imagery or subtle messaging to really push your messaging home. I will be available for any questions later on, and I look forward to the rest of the discussion. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Kelly. Thank you very much for that. We spoke earlier, or we touched on being brave in your communications, and I think it's very brave of Kelly to show that video. So well done, Kelly. And it's really great that it worked. You mentioned about, it's very interesting because you spoke about using a huge amount of different communications tools and this big mix of communication to remind, reassure, and reinforce the messages, so that there's a huge amount in there that we've spoken through. I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Leslie. What would you recommend somebody who's coming at this fresh? What's the one thing that they can do?
Start. That's the one thing you can do. Don't overthink it. You will never get these things 100% right, ever. Even I think any communications agency will tell you that things go wrong all the time, but just start somewhere. And year on year, keep building on, that foundation. There is never a bad time to communicate, and there's never a bad time to get a message across. So simply, if I had to give anyone advice, rip off the Band-Aid and just start.
Okay, that's a great answer. Thanks, Kelly. So just before, we're going to pass over to Oleg in a moment. One thing I want to do is just to remind you all to ask your questions. We have a Q&A session coming up in a few minutes after we've heard from Oleg. So please do put those questions into the questions section on Zoom, which is down on the bottom right of the screen. I'm going to pass over now to Oleg from Georgia. Oleg is going to talk to us about the work that they do in Georgia to promote Rare Disease Day, and also around, so we've asked this question around what's the one thing that you can do. Oleg's going to talk to us about really bringing some passion and making things happen on a different scale. So over to you, Oleg.
Okay. Okay, so my greetings to all. My name is Oleg Kvlividze. I am from Georgia and represent Georgian Foundation for Genetic and Rare Disease. I'd like to share my foundation and my experience in holding events dedicated to Rare Disease Day in the format of some tips for first-timers. I'd like to say that we have celebrated this day 11 times already. Surely each of them was different from the other, particularly in the scale and format, in the level of organizational success, in the number of feedbacks, in the compliance, degree of achieved results with the expected outcomes. Naturally, we will celebrate it this year too, albeit in a slightly unusual for us online format. Right now, I will try to discuss with you how I'm going to prepare for 12th Rare Disease Day, and hope my consideration and comments will be useful to you in your rare disease advocacy work. Here, my set says that Georgia is a small country. The population is just under 4 million. Due to the World Bank data, Georgia is among our middle-income countries, and accordingly, the healthcare budget is modest. So a lot of patients with rare disease are denied access to a free treatment. Although such an achievements, they will keep be proud of the individuals and the country. The first question, the main question, why do you personally want to celebrate Rare Disease Day in 2021? There are at least 3 reasons why we all around the world do this. So the first one, to achieve a specific goal, for example, to achieve funding for treatment, diagnostics, or care for particular disease or group of rare diseases. To unite and mobilize the patients community, united by one specific group of diseases, or representing the entire national community of people living with rare diseases. To make it clear to patients, their parents, and families that they are not alone face to face with their misfortune and with their problem. The third one is to draw public attention to the issue of rare disease as the most important target group is healthcare policy and reimbursement decision makers, representatives of influential media. Most often, all 3 reasons are present or intersect. If there are at least one of them, even the most private, the smallest, concerning only a few patients, be sure to join the celebration. Is there no success tomorrow, then the day after tomorrow it will be without fail. Trust my previous experience. Your efforts will never go to waste. The more people in a country are involved in this, the better. And one more very important one. If you have already carried out such events and they carried out successfully, never look askance as those who do it after you and without you. Maybe they have no experience, but quite possibly they have a better understanding of the problem, have freshness of perception and many new ideas that passed you by. Support them if they need support, and be glad that every year there are more and more of you. If none of the reasons are vitally interesting to you, please look inside yourself and define which needs are more significant for you. Anyway, please remember that one day they can be your needs as a patient, family, or a special advocacy organization. Your participation and support are extremely needed right now, today, right now. Then in the future, we'll have the support of others in times of extreme needs. So the motivation issue has been clarified. Now, how to conduct the event and what format? My unchanging opinion is that no one online meeting, even based on the most modern, most adapted for the conference online platform, there is a lot of platform right now, can replace the face-to-face or in-person format. Therefore, in your country, regulation allow, try to hold a hybrid meeting. That is a face-to-face meeting with those comfortable meeting in person with online inclusion accompanied by powerful support in social networks like Facebook, Twitter, maybe Telegram. In Europe, the Telegram is most popular, etc. If your rare disease prevents in-person contact, everything will have to be online. Given the huge number of webinars and conferences that are offered today, including the field of medicine, and which with rare exception are held often with limited enthusiasm from the listeners, is my private opinion, sure. We would like to make our events be special events to emphasize the voice of the patient scientificity and the strength of the advocacy organization. Therefore, the Georgia this year, we would choose a wide campaign in social media, TV and radio to once again attract the attention of civil society to the problem related with rare disease. In this regard, we would like to create a video with the participation of the nation, healthcare decision makers, famous medical professionals, as well as patients. to carry out some interviews with some doctors involved in the rare disease treatment or radio and TV. Also, Facebook page dedicated to Rare Disease Day in Georgia is being prepared, which will contain up-to-date information regarding this day. We would like Georgian patients affected with rare diseases will be able to share their problems through the page. This information will be very valuable, extremely valuable for us to develop optimal strategy on advocacy to improve access to rare disease treatment in the coming year. There are other patient advocacy organization in Georgia, and it's great that I'm sure are also successfully implementing their creative ideas online. In your country, there will be different messages and areas on emphasis taking into account the different nation-specific needs and cultural diversity. So let's move on. Where to get money from? Any campaign, even the most low key, even if you need everything with your, do everything with your own hands, requires money or contributed service. Of course, the first thing that comes to mind is the financial support of pharmaceutical company. Contact them, both national and international representatives. I'm sure that many will not refuse you, since most likely the financing of such events is already included in the annual budget. No, frankly, it's not a so creative idea. Everyone knows it, and I'm saying nothing new. But what should we do in case of other contributors will be needed if this money is not enough? Try to contact government agencies like your Ministry of Health, maybe City Hall, or maybe City Council, etc. If the proposal is made you smile, maybe in Eastern Europe something happens, the situation they want to give it anyway. Try various NGOs, foundation, maybe working in the field of human rights, maybe national foundations. Try to enlist the help of the popular media in your country. They will not give money, but they can provide with public exposure and information support. This is the same as the money. Meet a journalist for whom rare disease can become a sphere of his professional interest or a source of his career growth to write an article of publication on Rare Disease Day. The needs of patients are many, and learning how patients and families live with a rare disease is a powerful story of inspiration. Do not forget about the possibility of help from clinics, academic structures, I mean universities, insurance companies. By supporting you, they advertise their activities, their institutions. And finally, don't discount donation from people personally affected by rare disease. First of all, I mean parents. If it's possible, if they themselves don't have sufficient money, it's normal. They can convince their employers or friends to make a one-time donation or other assistance. And finally, of course, GeRaD and Rare Disease Day support team will always provide methodological informational assistance. The next question is where to hold the event. If this face-to-face opportunity exists in your country today, my answer is it can be carried out to absolutely everywhere. Everything depends on the national specifics and the situation in the country. As I already said, Georgia is a small country. In terms of the scale of our activity, of course, it cannot be compared, for example, with India. You already mentioned India today. But frankly, I'm still impressed by the speech of the speaker from India as the previous webinar, by the scale of the patient involved in the process. We have organized event in hospital, universities, large convention halls, government office, I mean Ministry of Health and National Council, not Council, National NCDC, Disease Control Center, National Center of Disease Control, and even the parks. Our climate allows us to do this in February, parks. We held conferences for more than 5,500 participants. That's a lot for Georgian reality. And small seminars with parents of patients with specific diseases. such as phenylketonuria, for instance. We arranged press conference with the government bodies at the same time press conference, but now from the patient's point of view. Something worked, something did not. In any case, we tried different ways, which in our opinion were the most effective in our given year. And the most of our activities ended in success. I mean, providing this or that patient's community with free access to treatment. This is, you must agree, the patient-made need is to receive competent, contemporary free treatment. Yes, it's important not where to carry out the event dedicated to Rare Disease Day, but what matters is whether you see a goal, why you're doing all this. And when you clearly see the goals, the ways to achieve it are better visible. This is some pictures, some memories, some sweet memories from our previous Rare Disease Days and the stages of my private life in the rare disease. And one more question. How to select allies and partners for activities related with rare disease? If you're hosting an event for the first time, choosing the right partner is essential, absolutely essential. Of course, first of all, try to involve representatives of your national alliance for rare diseases. If it does not exist in your country, then one of the experienced and authoritative disease-specific organization working in the field for rare disease. The authority can open many doors for you. Also, it's possible that you don't like this organization, don't trust them, or would like to hold this event without them. It happens. It's quite normal. Everyone likes everyone else. It's often impossible. The second tip is actively cooperate with doctor, medical professional, especially if there is a doctor who is strongly competent in your disease and is an enthusiast of the rare disease. A doctor usually has certain experience and connections, primarily with healthcare decision makers, certain international professional contacts, certain skills of participation in conference. In general, the doctor's participation in rare disease event preparation can be very helpful, extremely helpful. In many countries, research investigators or physicians initiate patient advocacy activities with the patient organization. Although doctors themselves often can be radical when circumstances require it, which sometimes reduce the effectiveness of such activities. And then allies from the governmental bodies, there are any. It's wonderful, ideally. Of course, based on their position, officials may not be direct advocate of patient demands, but the information assistance, primarily in the bureaucratic matters they provide with is worth a lot. And they're also capable of making decisions themselves. They are invaluable allies. And finally, most importantly, to take as allies everyone who is experienced, who is sincere, who believes that by helping children and adults with rare disease, they give a chance to their children and grandchildren to live in a free country, even if the rare disease problem does not touch them personally. And one more question that I would like to discuss with you here, maybe it's not directly related to the Rare Disease Day, but I think it's important since it is for me, it's really very sensitive. The question is, does it make sense to collaborate with government agencies? Remember, there are many government agencies involved with rare diseases. They include research and regulatory scientists. Many patients in many countries see the state as an opponent, which does something good only when it's forced. From their point of view, the state itself will never provide help to patients. Of course, this statement has its own reason. Very often, a patient who is diagnosed with a rare disease turns to the governmental bodies for help, and where else to go first? And it's refused, sometimes outright, sometimes with vague promise, but the result is the same. Of course, the walk to feeling of aggression, nihilism, and hope and hopelessness. After that, for such a patient, the state, if not an enemy, but certainly is not a friend. Often leading to feeling of hopelessness for patients and their families. The fact is that the treatment of most rare diseases is associated with large financial expenses that it's possible to solve the problem quickly, right now, today. At the same time, any government, in principle, should be interested in patients receiving treatment so that would be satisfied. After all, patients, their relatives and friends are potential voters. Therefore, it's necessary to cooperate with government. Without patients, without doctors, without this rare disease advocates, the state will never think of financing care for this or that rare disease. So the state is neither bad or good. It's only one of the most important parts of the process of gaining access to free treatment. It cannot be ignored. Governments frequently adhere to agree upon budgets for healthcare and do not like unpredictable expenses. No government in the world has extra money. And if you are advocating for rare disease, you must have patience to explain to the government how important it is to treat rare disease and how rare disease patients suffer. More, the methods are very diverse. Sometimes even patients are actively involved in the discussion of the state budgets for rare disease. Sometimes, yes, for instance, in Ukraine, yes, sometimes you have to resort to aggressive methods, but they are all kinds of advocacy. So it's necessary to actively cooperate with government bodies, even to gain their cooperation. There is no other way to achieve success. Is in most cases in the state that finance the treatment of rare disease. I would advise, though, hosting a rare disease day for the first time to be sure to invite healthcare decision makers, government research, or regulatory healthcare service agency leaders and investigators. They will definitely help your further advocacy activities. And finally, I am finishing. If you want to do something to celebrate Rare Disease Day, yes, if you have no partner, you have not financial resources and not even know any creative ideas, do something anyway. Don't back down, don't step aside. Even it's only one small Facebook post. Essentially will create in you a sense of belonging to the whole community of people living with rare disease, and albeit a little, but bring closer to achieving common goal to all of us, to get comprehensive access to free treatment. Thank you so much.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Oleg.
Thank you so much, and I wish all of you a very successful Rare Disease Day.
Okay, thank you, Oleg. So I'm just going to sum up very briefly the discussions that we've had. I'm also going to mention one thing that's been touched on a few times, and it's kind of the elephant in the room for all of the work that we've been doing over the last few months, which is COVID-19, coronavirus. Some of you may or may not be aware, but the Rare Disease Day 2021 is the first digital Rare Disease Day. So a lot of the activities are being brought online. And I see there's a question about that that's come through. So we'll answer that in a few moments. Or if it's once it's vetted, we may answer that in a moment. You'll have to wait around and find out. But we will be doing a lot of the work online that's taken place offline before. Different geographies, different regions have different rules to do with COVID-19. So it's a fine balance, but we'll discuss that with the panel in a moment. I just wanted to sum up, and we've heard from some brilliant case studies and brilliant examples from around the world. Oleg spoke to us about working with government and agencies, and I think that's a really important point. That we often talk about the social media activity, but actually, you know, the people that help change policy are the government agencies. So we need to look at getting them on board. It might not be something that you can do in the next 2 weeks, but certainly for longer term is something that you can look at. Kelly, we spoke to around about the patient story and actually using different communications approaches. So not just using social media, using traditional media, using websites, using magazines to remind, reassure and reinforce your really important messages about Rare Disease Day. And then from Lesli, right at the start, we heard many different things. And one thing that really came through for me was Leslie was talking about the importance of the hashtag, and actually this idea of we're not just talking about one country, we're talking about the global movement, and the more people we can get using that hashtag, the bigger the impact it will have. That's all from me for the time being. I'm going to hand back to Laura. Laura, over to you.
Yes, thank you. Great. And Eric and I, let's get ready for all of the questions that have come in. Thank you, Matt, also for your talk and showing us a little bit about what's still to come in terms of the campaign materials that are available for you. And as you saw, the what's also available in the US with Nord's campaign and Oleg and Kelly. So I want to move to those questions talking about COVID-19. Yes, I'm so inspired as well from all of the different events that are up on the website. So don't hesitate to go up onto the world map and take a look at the different countries and what people are planning. Might spark even more ideas. And as we talked about, seeing it as an opportunity where we can actually participate in more events that maybe we would have in the past, and see what else is happening. Like Leslie spoke about with the materials are there to help you, inspire you to create something of your own, giving our own stories. So Eric, do you want to start the question and answer session?
Yes, so there is a question from Flora, who is watching us, and she says, what tool do you recommend using to adapt the Rare Disease Day material? I'm not very good at technology. So as you may know, we have the Rare Disease Day materials, you can download them, and some of them have the Photoshop document, so you can edit them directly on Photoshop. If you don't know how to use Photoshop, don't worry, that's normal. You can also use other softwares. You can use, for example, Canva, which is a free tool that Matt and Kelly know how to use, and also Leslie, and they are really happy with it. So you can use Canva, which is for free. It's really easy to use, and you can do everything that you can do on Photoshop, or almost everything actually. So yeah, Flora, I would recommend you to upload the materials to Canva and to edit them there.
Yeah, can I just second that, Eric, and give a vote for canva.com? It's it allows you to do graphic manipulation just using your web browser, so you don't need to download any software, and you can use it on your phone as well. So it's relatively, you don't need a really advanced computer to use it, and you really don't need advanced skills to use it. If you can use PowerPoint, you should be able to use it.
Yeah, and also just to add that they actually have an NPO program that they recently launched. So it gives you actual, you can have access to their premium service if you register as an NPO, and you can load your brand guide and your colors and everything's there. So it makes editing anything really easy.
Thanks for that, Kelly and Matt and Eric. I'll move on to another question. So this comes from, again, maybe opening it up to other of the panelists about the coronavirus. So what can I do for an event for Rare Disease Day? I have a small budget. I can't think of anything with the coronavirus. Kelly, please go ahead. Just open your mic and answer, please.
Sorry, so this is something that I've actually thought through quite a bit of late. And to be honest, so I also was grappling with the same thing towards the end of last year. And then I realized that coronavirus has actually provided us with quite a rare opportunity, in the sense that it's made some of the lifestyles that we as rare patients are so used to relatable to the everyday person. So autoimmune patients are often having to wear masks. We can now relate to what it's like to be fearful of something that we cannot see and that we do not know who's carrying it and who's got it and who might make us sick. We know now the general population knows what it's like to be at home and be self-isolated. So maybe you can try think of something around bringing in the similarities and highlighting to the public just how the fear and angst that we all live with now in light of COVID, how that relates to how rare disease patients generally live, 365 days a year.
To build on what Kelly said, I think that not that we can say anything really great has come out of having a pandemic, but the conversations have really been changed, especially around healthcare and equity. I'm speaking, of course, from an American perspective, but this really allows us, I think, to have a different level of conversation about the inequities that rare disease patients face that NORD has been fighting since, we were started in 1983 with the Orphan Drug Act in the United States. And so we're really trying to take advantage of the conversations that can be had. And I would say that, we're having a community conversation that we're hosting that's US based on February 25th from 2 to 3. Anyone's welcome to register. But these conversations can also be had, on Zooms with your friends and family, in kitchen tables. I mean, these conversations are something that are really open and accessible to everyone. I think the important part is we've reached a moment in our community where there's ripening, where we can really talk about these issues in a way that even non-rare disease patients can understand and really access our fear, the isolation, the worry about access to quality care and the right care at the right time. So, I think that this is really an opportunity for the rare community to step up and be leaders, because we're experts in so many of the things the world has experienced in this past year. I would also say that, again, the beauty of social is that anyone can get involved. Anyone can step up and do something. It doesn't have to cost money. It's just about, communicating out your support of Rare Disease Day. I also want to make a plug for Light Up for Rare. If you're stuck at what to do, look at your local community. It doesn't have to be the Empire State Building that gets lit up for Rare Disease Day. It can be your local courthouse or library or your own home. It's whatever will be able to showcase those Rare Disease Day colors and make people ask, what is this blue, pink, green, purple stuff? And then it starts a conversation. It allows us to say, did you know that over 300 million people worldwide are impacted by rare diseases? It's about following that up and creating that conversation. So I would just say, just put it out there. There's no such thing as a bad idea. And the lovely thing about us all being stuck at home is you've got a big audience that's looking at what you're creating. And so take advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, the technology allows us to do many different things now. So it's relatively easy to set up a webinar on Zoom or with Google Meetings or Microsoft Teams, and free of charge a lot of the time as well. Zoom is free for 40 minutes. Because you have access to social media, you can set up a short social media campaign focused on policymakers, or you can, if you're in Europe, you can tweet your MEP and work with the people living with rare disease that you represent and ask them to tweet your MEP about a particular topic. From a GeRaD perspective, they're running the Black Pearl Awards, and that is being broadcast live online, so you can promote that and come along to that. And you can vote in the Black Pearl Photo Awards as well. So there's a load of stuff that you can do that is to be involved and be part of the community and be part of the campaign.
Yes, thank you. And another something that we heard in our earlier webinar back in November from Toto from Mexico, he was having, so Matt, you mentioned Zoom, you can have for free for 40 minutes. And he was meeting with families every week. So just having that Zoom call, and we've talked to all of our speakers today, talked about the importance of personal stories and connecting. And that's also what it's about, right? It's connecting with each other and connecting to the community. And a simple Zoom call with families to check in is something you can do during this time. So moving on, we were talking about the Illuminating Buildings. And thank you, Leslie, for, yes, making that call out for any local building to be part of that global chain of lights, as we again see hooking in even with a local building. We're going to receive those pictures from around the world. Again, one of our webinars, don't forget to take the picture, please, and send it to us when you do have that building lit up. We have a question here asking where on the website they can find some of those pictures and download. Eric, maybe you want to explain where the Illuminating Buildings toolkit can be found?
So yeah, we have a toolkit explaining how you can approach different buildings to make them be illuminated for Rare Disease Day. I will share with you the link to it on the chat box and also on Facebook. And there you can have access to the toolkit that also contains a running list of buildings that have already been lit up. So for example, in Italy, we have more than 40 monuments. In Argentina, we have already more than 20 also. So I will share that with you so that you can have access to it. And also I would recommend you to follow the national alliances that are part of the Rare Disease Day, because they are posting pictures and they are also posting all their events, including the illumination of the buildings. So that's something interesting that you could be interested in following.
Thanks, Eric. And sticking on the different links, and there's a question from Jesus who's asking for the Nord materials. Is there downloadable material, Leslie, for the Nord campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can put the link into the chat box. And you know, we encourage if even if you want to do show your stripes and zebras are something that resonate in your community or in your country, please participate. You know, we know rare diseases know no borders, and so our campaigns shouldn't either. If something speaks to you, feel free to use it. I think that's why we put it out and why we create it, is because we hope that it's something that feels tangible and that it brings you some level of you know, excitement over being able to be seen and being able to be heard. So I'll find that link.
Okay, great. Thanks, Leslie. And another question is asking about Spanish translation, but maybe Eric and Matt, we could talk about all the translations that we have available this year. That's new on the global campaign, but in addition to the national alliances who often translate the materials, you can find translations of both the materials, but also of the webinars. Eric, do you want to?
Yes, so we have already some of the materials translated. So we have so far materials translated into Spanish, French, Mandarin, Arabic, Portuguese. I will need Lara probably to help me, Hindi.
Yes, that's it. You got it. Russian.
Yeah. And Russian. Yeah.
Yes.
So
you can find them in the downloads page. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And also in terms of the webinars, the last 3 webinars are also translated into these languages. So if you want to watch the webinar in Spanish, you just have to go to YouTube and select the closed captioning or subtitles. And there you have to select your language and you will see all the webinars translated into your language.
Okay, great. I have another question. Is there a good amount of social media content posts we should be posting in the run-up to Rare Disease Day? For example, should it be 1 post a week or 1 post a day? What is your advice?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in on that question. I think it really depends on your audience and how frequent you normally post. I mean, it's really, I think there's no such thing as too much posting as long as you're getting engagement, but I want to be mindful of people's time. We have a lot to balance these days. So if for you it feels comfortable to post once a week, I would say just keep that up. I think especially for organizations, the importance is establishing a cadence, an expectation of when you're going to see messages. So that way people know to chime in or to be prepared to see that update. So that would really be my best advice to you. If it's not feasible to post every day, that's okay. That might be something that you build up to, or something that you can look and see, are there volunteers in your community that can help you to increase the frequency of your messages over time.
Okay, great. Does anybody else want to pick up on that? Because there's a follow-up question basically about when you're planning an event as well, how would you organize the social media before, during, after, and the frequency? Matt, I see your.
I mean, just on the original question, one of the things, don't remember that, or do remember rather, when you're posting on social media, you're not posting in isolation. So you need to, what I would encourage you to do is talk to your contacts, talk to the organizations that you work with, and ask them to retweet and comment on your social media posts, because then you will reach their contacts as well. And that's a really powerful way of making your content go further, really without you having to post a huge amount of content yourself. So that's a really good way of doing it. There are other tools available that will help you scheduling your posts. I tend to use something called Buffer quite a lot, buffer.com, which is an online tool, and that will help you identify the key times for you to tweet. For free, it will allow you to schedule, I think, 10 posts in advance. For some organizations, 10 posts isn't a lot. For some, that might be enough to keep them going for several months. So have a look at those. TweetDeck is another tool which is available for free. I think we can probably share all of these links afterwards, Eric, because people may not be able to understand my accent again. So we'll put those out there, but there's different ways of scheduling it. Yeah, I hope that's useful.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Lesli.
Make a plug for looking at the numbers, looking at those engagement numbers, and trying to identify the ideal time for your post, because that's going to make it have more of an impact if you're sending it out at the right time. Like when we base ours around US times, and we see that most people are logged on, actually for us in Facebook, it's more in the afternoon. And so that's when we schedule our most important posts to go, because we want to see the most engagement. And yeah, absolutely, ask other organizations to share stuff to you. We talked a lot about hashtags today, but I don't think maybe we've hit as hard on the @ posting something at someone. So if it's at Rare Disease Day, so we make sure the Rare Disease Day page gets it, or if it's at a national organization or a partner organization, because then you're not just getting your followers or the people that are looking at your page, but you're also getting their followers to see you as well. So making sure that you are correctly, tagging someone is really important.
Thank you. Does anybody want to take the question about planning then the posts before, during, and after an event? Any more additional points to say there?
Yeah, I think just to say, like Leslie said, it's not a one size fits all approach, and it all goes around your community and who your audience is. But I think definitely to post regularly in the build up to your event, and then possibly on the day while you're at the event, something like a Facebook Live and stuff to show, so that people, your audience who might not physically be there, get a feel for what the vibe's like. I think that also always has good engagement. And then very important to always thank, be it sponsors, participants, people who arrived, etc. after the event, I think is also critical.
Okay, great. Well, I think that
Just one last point on that, Laura, is that we've spoken a lot around social media, but don't forget as well that you can email people, which is a different way of communicating with them, but it will arrive with them, and people do tend to read emails still, so it can be very powerful. So don't forget, if you've got an email database or a list of contacts that you can email, do email them. It works.
Yes, very good point, Matt. Thank you for that. So I think that closes about our questions. I want to thank all of our speakers for today and sharing their time, their tips, their experience with the global rare disease community, as well as sharing your stories. Thank you for reminding us that it's connecting with people and connecting with the community, connecting with each other to build this campaign, and that even the smallest activation of either social media and email, or just get started and get to it. There are materials available. We're really excited at GeRaD, of course, for our upcoming Black Pearl Awards, like Matt mentioned earlier. So if you would like to join, it's going to be a great show. We're excited to be able to celebrate the incredible advancements and achievements of the people involved in the rare disease community. So I hope you can come to watch the show, but also to enjoy it, this celebration with us. Thank you again, Leslie, Oleg, Kelly, and Matt. And we look forward to watching participation online. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
I wish you a great Rare Disease Day. Thank you. Bye.